jump straight into it and speak to one of the eminent persons who has been observing from the public gallery the proceedings of Sona. Ndate Andrew Mlangeni, thank you so much for your time. A lot of the issues that have been raised by the president revolve around moral, ethical leadership. Do you think it's going to happen, or is it just lip service?
Well, I don't think it's just talk and talk and talk. He has himself said the people of South Africa are saying, stop talking, let us get into action and solve the problems of South Africa. I think if all of us work together with the government, the private sector and the civil service society, if we work together to implement the decisions taken by the government, the resolutions of solving the problems of South Africa, all of us working together, we will achieve what the president has asked us to achieve.
Is that possible in the context where we see leaders who are deployed to the National Assembly and the National Council of Provinces, they have allegations of corruption hanging over their heads? Is it possible to send a good message to the general population if the ruling party is continuing to send these leaders who are tainted?
The message that we are sending to people is that all those people who are implicated in corruption and are mentioned in the Zondo Commission and other inquiries commissions that are going on, we are going to arrest them. After the commissions have made their report, we are going to arrest them, send them to prison, confiscate the properties that they have bought with stolen money stolen from the people.
All right, and Andrew Mlangeni, thank you so much for your time. Emphatic that he wants those who are implicated in corruption to be arrested. We cross now to Mzwandile Mbeche on the other side.
While we continue speaking to various parties here, with me, of course, is the Minister of Home Affairs. He's been a long-time Minister of Health. I almost called him Minister of Health. Minister, the President spoke about the new visa regime in order to speed up the issue of tourists. Also talking about the target of 21 million tourists in 2030. Is it feasible?
Oh yes, it is feasible. Very, very feasible. At the moment, we are having 10 million visitors. One of the impediments of people visiting your country is the requirements before they enter your country. Like this issue of visa regime is speaking about. We have already identified areas where people are complaining of what should happen when what is needed before they visit the country. There are 195 countries under United Nations, for which South Africa is one. But only 75 of them enter South Africa without any visas. The whole of SADC enters South Africa without visas. But we have got countries with huge populations like China, India, Nigeria, where such issues need to be resolved on how do you make visits between them smooth. As we have done at the moment, we have already given 10-year free visa entries for business people and diplomats, etc. Now we have to look at it on how you extend it to everybody who wants to visit.
The other issue perhaps, particularly in South Africa, the issue of illegal immigrants. So how do you deal with that issue? Because it does impact on what you as government want to do in terms of fighting poverty.
Well, Mzwandile, I'm sure if you listen to what South Africans are saying, they are not saying people must not come and visit here. No country is an island. What they are complaining about is undocumented people. That means people visiting your country without being documented. All of you as South Africans are documented. Yeah. We know who you are, where you come from, when were you born. When you take ID, we know. When you get married, you know. Even when you die, we know. So anybody living within the borders of every country, we must know such details. So is the issue of documentation. So for that reason, in 2013, the government decided to establish what they call a border management authority. That is the one which is going to, it doesn't say stop people from coming in. It says let them come in through a legal regime and let them be documented. Let's know who is inside. And remember, it's not only human beings we are talking about. It's drugs, it's human trafficking, it's goods stolen in and smuggled out, it's counterfeit goods. All those, the Border Management Authority will have to look at.
Thank you very much, Minister. There was Minister Aaron Motsoaledi there, basically talking about the issue of the new visa regime that the President spoke about. We will speak to the leader of COPE now. They are just exchanging pleasantries. Mr. Lekota, you've just listened into what the President was saying.
No, I just got late. I got very late here.
Oh, you were not here?
No. I thought you were saying the minister.
No, okay, I'm talking about the President.
Yeah,
so he was speaking about a better country for everyone, building rails, super high-speed trains, a big dream for South Africa, 2 million jobs for young people. Are you disagreeing with that?
Sir, I must tell you that, that actually is a dream. Countries like China, Japan have got very strong economies which are running as we talk. And they have populations that are highly trained technically and otherwise. You look at the cars that come out of their countries and all of that. Now, if we want to build the high-speed trains and things like that, we should start by training our own people, educate them, give them the training. And definitely we need an economy that's performing much better than our economy is performing at the present time. So that what makes it a dream is that it's too far to do today. And we should have concentrated on educating and training our young people. We closed our technicons and things like that. That's why we are in difficulties.
But he basically said there will be a situation where a child at the age of 10 must be able to read and write. So which basically means...
That is doable. That is doable. But a high-speed train, to get to the point at which you can build a high-speed train, it's going to be many, many years before we get there.
Thank you very much, sir.
I was only talking to that issue, yeah.
All right. There was the leader of COPE, the Mosua Lekota, basically saying, a lot needs to be done to achieve what the dream the president is speaking about. Of course, Bulelani, my colleague, is on the other side.
Thank you so much, Mzwandile. Of course, we're continuing to take a reaction from a cross-section of organizations. Developmental finance institutions have also been observing the State of the Nation address. I bring into the conversation Umamupilisiwe Mthethwa from the National Empowerment Fund. Ma'am, a lot of marching orders from the President are about the issue of job creation. As the Empowerment Fund, what are you taking out of this, Sona?
So I think one of the critical issues that came out for me was when the President mentioned that we have all the policies, we have our macroeconomic strategies. So now he's saying it must be all hands on the deck. So it's about the implementation phase of all those strategies that our government has come up with. But one of the other key issues for me was when he was putting a lot of emphasis on the role of the SMME sector in South Africa, because as you will all know, the next growth phase, economic growth, is not going to come from your large corporates. A lot of them are actually going under. So a lot of this revitalization of the economy, or our turnaround strategy for the economy, is going to come from the SMME sector. But you heard him also when he was talking about the role of, or what we are supposed to do in terms of supporting enterprises that are located in the townships and rural economies in South Africa.
Somebody is sitting at home and thinking, I've got a business idea, but I've been struggling to get finance. What advice would you give to those people?
So obviously you have a suite of financial, organizations and products that are there that were set up to actually assist our enterprises in South Africa. You have the IDC that was set up to actually drive the industrialization or re-industrialization of the economy. So that would be for your large businesses. Then you'll have organizations like the National Empowerment Fund. The National Empowerment Fund was set up to drive the implementation of BEE. So if you are black, if you are a woman, if you are a township-based enterprise, come to the NEF or just go into the NEF website. We have even developed the business plan toolkit for our people, because we have realized that when you talk about cash flow analysis, our people will think it's a very complex exercise. But with the business plan toolkit that you'll find on the NEF website, it's very easy. It will prompt you. By the time you know it, you'll have a business plan. Because if you say balance sheet analysis or cash flow analysis, if you are a tracker, you'll think, wow, that's a mind-boggling exercise. So come to the NEF, but for the very, very small enterprises, we have another enterprise called SIFA. So SIFA's funding actually starts from as small as 50,000, and then it goes up to about 5 million. And then the NEF takes from 5 million, we go to 75 million. And then from 75 million to billions of rands, obviously you must go to the IDC.
I'm sure by the end of tonight you're going to be getting a flood of applications to the NEF.
That's what I'm waiting for.
Ms. Pilisiwe Mthethwa, the CEO of the National Empowerment Fund, of course giving us a rundown of what you at home can do to access all the state developmental finances opportunities. For now, we're going to cross to Lulama, who's standing by on the other side of the president.
Thanks, Bulelani. With me now, I've got the Transport Minister, Fikile Mbalula. Over the long weekend, there were about 44 fatalities in road accidents in Limpopo alone. That should be a pain to you, Minister of Transport. And today, the President talked about rail infrastructure. How critical is that rail infrastructure?
It's very critical, moving people from road to rail, moving goods from road to rail is very critical. And what President have cast our imagination to, it is something that is doable and achievable, and is very safe at best, but it needs to move at a faster pace and speed in order for people to also believe in it, and it must be safe. So that's what those are some of the things that are not just a pipe dream, are actually doable. But we need to look at the short term and the long term. The other things are in the long term. In the short term, I've got to make it a point that the rail system we've got is refurbished. We've got resources, and we must spend them well. But over and above that, it must be safe, and it must transport people on time in the big cities and all of that, and this is what is important. Tomorrow morning, I will be talking to the commuters in Cape Town and reassuring them that within a period of a year and less than that, we're going to turn the situation around here. I'm going to bring safety into the trains. I'm going to ensure that the trains run on time and they're actually refurbished. And everybody will arrive on time at their work. If we achieve that, we'll have done a great deal of job for the people of South Africa.
Talking about you tomorrow going to talk to the people of Cape Town, especially rail commuters, because they are always late. This dream now of having unemployment is going to be unachievable if people continue to arrive at work late because they are going to be fired. So what it is exactly that you're going to tell them tomorrow about the challenges of trains not running on time in Cape Town?
Is to fix the basics. That's it. I mean, I'm going to put up a war room at the regional and national level through PRASA and all the other stakeholders and role players to turn around things, to ensure that we bring normality and in the investment we've made into the train system in South Africa. That is going to happen quick and fast, and to ensure that things run normally. And then we appoint people into positions and boards who are going to do the right thing and the right job, to understand what it means for trains, what does it take for trains to move on time, and that is what we need to do, and to bring security in the trains. And that's what we are actually going to do. and that there should be visible action within a very short space of time.
So you're promising them that indeed things are going to change?
I'm not promising, I'm a doer. If ever I'm not doing it, then I must ship out. I mean, I'm here to make things happen within the budget space and the money that I actually have. I'm not here to come and play with people. I need to characterize these things in terms of short-term, immediate, and the long-term. Of course, in the long term, this is a big dream that has been shared with South Africa today, linking us up. It is doable. Who thought that the World Cup FIFA 2010 will come to South Africa? It happened and it has passed on. It left us with Gautrain. But I need that to be expanded nationwide.
That was the Transport Minister, Fikile Mbalula, and it's back to you, Studio Leanne.
All right, Lulama, thanks very much, and to all of the reporters that are getting the response and the reaction from, firstly, the political parties. You're seeing ministers, you're seeing civil organizations as well adding their voice. Just a quick summary. Peter Mulder calling this a wish list of the president. Musi Maimane of the DA, he didn't give a plan, he just addressed the mess that the ANC have made. That's my money. Kenneth Meshwa, the ACDP, a nice dream speech. Julius Malema had a lot to say about that. The leader of the EFF, the president, said nothing about land. ANC abandoned the land issue. He said he's dreaming. He came here to tell us about his dreams and went on to say that the days of dreaming are now over. Now, these are just a couple of the comments that have come through. You also saw the PAC saying they are not commenting on the land issue, and that's not good enough. So, in a nutshell, let me just get your final word here, Makwe. Those are the responses from some of the political parties. What was your response? How did you find the speech?
You know, maybe I think maybe we had high expectations, or in the real sense, the president didn't meet our expectations. But maybe starting with the dream thing when it comes to the city is doable. Look at Joburg. Joburg was built at the back of a mining industry. Limpopo, as an example, you've got a huge platinum reserves, so it can still be done. And remembering that mining talks into manufacturing, so if they can combine the two, then probably maybe they can do something out of that. And if definitely they're going to auction the spectrum by the Minister of Communication, that's very good when it comes to data prices. If they're going to take lessons from the automotive sector, that's also very good. And if they're going to start doing the special development and making sure that the what they call rural or the local industrial parks gets to be revitalized, that will be good, because it will also help with the immigration, meaning people who don't have to come to Joburg looking for work, stuff like that. But now you get to be worried, you know, especially when he starts talking with the likes of Eskom, stuff like that. Yeah. One gets a sense that maybe is it this the time that we're acknowledging things that the finance minister didn't want to acknowledge when he was delivering his budget speech when it comes to Eskom, because basically what's going to happen here is that they will continue to give Eskom money, whether is that a special appropriation bill when it comes to the 230 billion that they have to give Eskom for the next coming 10 years. What it's a question of, they said that Eskom, they've got money up until October. One has to ask, is that debt? Does that include loans from China, stuff like that? So maybe it's true, when we made the budget speech, we were playing to the gallery, we're trying to please the rating agencies. We're afraid that maybe we will be downgraded, because basically all the things that were avoided to be said during the budget speech, here we are, we're acknowledging them, and they're going to be said. And you ask yourself that he mentioned last year, September, about the economic stimulus plan. How far are we with all those things? You know, you need to understand. And it's encouraging as well that we have seen that almost the 300 billion that the investment initiatives have managed to raise, almost 230 billion thereof has already been committed. That's a good thing. So, but the long and short is, you know, people were expecting real concrete actions, and I don't think we've managed to get some.
Quickly, international investors, will this inspire some confidence in them?
He played safe, and there's nothing to show that we're moving somewhere.
All right, let's leave it there. Thanks, Makwe. Thanks so much for all your opinions here on this this post-Sona analysis broadcast. Now let's continue to get some reaction now from outside Parliament, and Mzwai standing by with a minister. I'm not sure which one, but Mzwai, who have you got with you?
Oh, well, thanks, Lee. And well, he has not been promoted yet. This one is the president of the Black Management Forum, Leanne Andile Nomlala, who's basically also wanting to give us his view in terms of what the president said. As the business people, are you convinced that we're on the right path as the country?
Quite explicitly, Zwandile, I think our country is the light is being ignited. The President has outlined a very clear, comprehensive picture of where all South Africans must rally, a vision that all South Africans must rally behind. The fact that he shares a dream, it tells you that we must dream for us to be able to realize our dreams. Whether we dream big, and we must dream big so that we can fall short. I'm quite pleased by a couple of number of things that he has raised, that the BMF has always been raising. The issues of focusing on high impact economic growth sectors, the sectors such as tourism, agri-processing, even the fact that the infrastructure rollout that is now going to come, that will enable small, medium-sized businesses to be able to do business. I was quite pleased by the fact that he mentioned basic low-hanging fruits that could start igniting our economy. Issues such as doing import substituting, creating agricultural hubs where the markets for small-scale sector farmers can go and sell their goods and services. I think as black professionals and as black business leaders around in the country, we must rally around President Cyril Ramaphosa. He inspires hope. He gives us the prospects of what we want to see. We must rally behind him, support him, but obviously and naturally, we must also keep him accountable. He has made that call himself, that those that are in the levers of being able to support must support, but also we must keep government accountable. So as BMF, we're quite pleased, and we're looking forward to working with all his ministers, including himself, in the 6th administration, and we will be here. We are hopeful that our future and our country is standing on a firm ground under his leadership.
Thank you very much. That was Andile Numlala, the president of BMF, basically saying as business they are fully behind the president as he outlines his vision. Bulelane?
Thank you so much, Mzwandile. Of course, a lot of emphasis has been made around investment, but for now we're going to maybe focus on local investment. And joining me now is the CEO of the Black Business Council, Mr. Hanki Matabane. Thank you so much, sir, for your time. As the BBC, do you take anything out of this Sona, particularly around how it's going to develop black businesses?
Thank you very much. This can be considered as the most important Sona since 1994. The country has been calling for a speech that will give hope, that will focus on employment, that will focus on growing the economy, and we think the president has delivered. The focus on the 7 priorities is what will bring us to where we want to be. Also, we've been calling for government to say, we've got so many policies. Let us focus on implementation. And we're glad that the president has heard us. The president is agreeing with us that the focus for the next 5 years should be implementation. The focus also should be on creating small businesses. We thought the president was going to touch on funding small businesses because majority of our members are struggling with access to funding. It's one thing to have an opportunity, but it's another thing if you want to grow and expand to have funding. So we had thought that the president will mention something about recapitalizing the National Empowerment Fund, because for us, that is an important institution that has been utilized before to fund black businesses. And then if you fund black and small businesses, you'll be able to create jobs.
Just talking about the issue of cutting on red tape, where do you think government can improve in practical terms?
We are happy that the president has indicated that you should not be taking more than 1 day, because it's happening in other countries like Uganda. You register a company in 1 day. So the other red tape that needs to be cut is, for example, if you're running a business, your intention is not to spend time on administration and filling forms and all those type of things. We should be creating one-stop shops for businesses. For example, if you're in province A, you don't have to go to a bigger province to fill your forms, to do your tax, to do all these things. You need to go to one-stop shop and complete everything there and find people who are willing to help you to complete that, because as a business, your intention is, your focus is not on administration, but is on growing the economy and growing the company.
Quickly, and just before I let you go, is this a practical State of the Nation address?
It is very practical, but we'll wait for more details from ministers. Because as you know, the president will focus on the higher and a bigger level. But ministers, especially we're waiting for the Minister of Small Business, we're waiting for her plan. We'll work with her. We're waiting for the plan of the Minister of Trade and Industry and the Minister of Finance as well.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Khanki Matabane, who is the CEO of the Black Business Council. For more reaction, Lulama is standing by.
Thanks, Bulelani. I've got the Minister of Trade and Industry, Ibrahim Patel, who is going to tell us more about what President Cyril Ramaphosa talked about when he was referring to fair global trade. Minister, this fair global trade that the President was talking about, how is it going to benefit South Africa?
Essentially, there are two ways in which we create jobs in South Africa. The one is to do goods and services for our own people, and the other one is to sell to the rest of the world. When we sell a car, when we sell a suit, when we sell food to the rest of the world, we create jobs locally. And when the President identified the trade area, he was referring really to start here on the African continent. It's a large continent with more than 1 billion people. And we've just concluded a continental free trade agreement that binds together 54 African countries into one bloc that will be able to trade more easily with each other. And that can create more jobs. At the moment already, from the trade with the rest of the African continent, there are 250,000 South African jobs that have been created and sustained as a result. But the other part is to deal with the gathering trade war that is looming globally, particularly between the United States and China. In about a week and a half's time, President Ramaphosa will lead a delegation to the G20 summit of the 20 most significant economies in the world. And we expect the leaders of all the large countries to be there. And his message will be that we've got to find ways of avoiding this war and having a rules-based system to resolve the differences that countries have. South Africa is aggressively pursuing an industrialization path. And President Ramaphosa set out the key sectors that we see growing. And those sectors include some new sectors, the digital economy as a key one, as well as traditional sectors like mining, but with a change, mining and local processing. And of course also he proudly pointed out that he was wearing a suit made by South African hands, and it was a beautiful suit. And every viewer would do well to copy the president, and let's get into local fashion.
And your suit tonight?
My suit was made by South African hands at the very same factory that the president got his suit from. The factory is a few kilometers from Parliament in the area of Salt River. And I hope you too tonight can say that the clothing you're wearing is locally made. Let's challenge each other, create jobs here by buying local and investing locally and building this economy and supporting South Africa.
Local as lekker. That's the Minister for Trade and Industry, Ibrahim Patel. I am now joined by the Minister of Basic Education, Angie Motshekga. Ma'am, you must be proud. You must be happy about the announcement by the President tonight on basic education.
No, I am, because I'm convinced, I think like most educationists will know that basic education starts at the basic level. Your early childhood development, your early grades. And we were resource constrained and we were really focusing on your higher grades. But now with the nation acknowledging that this is where it starts and ends. If it doesn't start well, your chances of success later are very limited. So I'm very encouraged and very happy.
When are this plan likely to be implemented, these changes that the President was talking about, when are we likely to see them being rolled out in schools?
You know, fortunately with the Sona one, he had already sent, really there was indication about robotics, about coding. So we had started piloting in 100 schools in the country, in your rural and farm schools, to be able to develop the curriculum, to train our teachers, just to prepare the system. So we're ready from next year to scale up. So it's not like we're going to start from zero. So we had started from Sona 1. On integrated ECD program, we're working with social development because that one is much more difficult. The law puts early childhood development in social development. But I believe, and which is a trend international, that early childhood development has to be integrated and be led by basic education. Every department will do its part, social development will do their part, but the stimulation of kids, just getting them to be really stimulated properly quite early, it's key. And I always make an example that if you start studying after grade 12 and night school, your handwriting will tell you. So which means it has to start day one in the foundation phase.
And how is the pilot project going?
It's exciting. I can invite you, there's a school in Mamelodi, it's one of our leading schools on robotics and coding. There's a coding school in Ivory Park, established by Oracles, because we didn't have the budget when the president announced in February. So we're able to mobilize UNISA. They are using all their labs to train our teachers, but also to really enable us to roll the program. Sasol has come big on the party. Oracle and many other companies, Gigs has also come to the party. So it's exciting. So if you have time, you should visit some of our schools where we're piloting. It's a very exciting, and it's really giving a fresh breeze in the education sector. So it's quite exciting and encouraging.
That was the Minister for Basic Education, Angie Motshekga. With that, it's back to you at the studio, Leanne.
Thanks very much, Lulama, as we start coming to an end for this post-analysis of Sona 2019. Reading a couple of the reactions from South Africans with regard to this. And, you know, some people are feeling quite optimistic. Others are thinking, oh, is this just a pipe dream? The word dream seems to be something that everybody's focusing in on. So what did you think?
Well, I think as much as I think he said all the right things about what this country needs, and I think the question really that perhaps many people would want answered is the how. He did say he wants to see 2 million young people employed in the next 10 years. But how are you going to make that one possible? You're talking about the issue of young kids learning coding, but we still have the issue of just basic literacy. So some of those things, perhaps the ministers, when they flesh out the speech, so they would be able to give some of the details. In terms of the overall vision for the country, I think he did very well. Yeah. But of course, I think I would have wanted a bit more meat. So I think that's why really I feel the president should have really stressed.
And I think a lot of people have been saying that. I think perhaps our expectations were exceptionally high when it came to the State of the Nation address, and high in terms of getting that direction. We've been given the 7 priorities. Again, and just to recap them, these are the priorities that the President mentioned: economic transformation and job creation, education, skills and health, consolidating the social wage through reliable, quality basic services, spatial integration, human settlements and local government, social cohesion and safe communities, a capable, ethical and developmental state, and a better Africa and world. Okay, and how are we going to do that? And that's that whole how issue.
I think that's why, I mean, even if you listen to some of the political parties are basically saying it is a dream that he is talking about, because the issue really that the president is raising are the issues that are very relevant. I mean, when he talks about growing the economy and creating employment, I mean, all of us agree with that. We want a better Africa and a better world. All of us agree. Capable state, ethical state, all of us agree that that must happen. But then comes the question, do you have the people who are geared towards ensuring that that which we have said to the nation is implemented? I think for me, as they would say, they say the proof of the pudding is in the eating.
Yeah.
That's how I would characterize it.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, we again have to ask ourselves the question about a 10-year plan right now. Yeah. And when he lays out this, within the next 10 years, we will have made progress in tackling poverty. I mean, the thing is, no person in South Africa will go hungry in 10 years. I'm not sure that people want to hear that. Our economy will grow at a much faster rate. 2 million more young people will be in employment, and our schools will have a better educational outcomes, and every 10-year-old will be able to read, and violent crime will be halved. So this is a 10-year forecast, but there's still that there's still all those days between the 10 years of how we plan on achieving this.
Perhaps, Leanne, the difficulties that we are going through as a country are the ones really that perhaps make us doubt even the genuineness of the message. I think he is already, planning for a second term, so to speak. So if, let's say, the second term will be achieved, so this could actually be great in terms of planning. Here is the president laying out the vision that this is what I want to do. So you and I are interested in seeing some of the short-term, medium-term, and of course the long-term would be that 10 years. If he is able to demonstrate with speed what would be the short-term interventions that will make sure that the economy is growing. Yes, he did mention that on the 5th to the 7th of November this year is going to be an investment summit, which I think is very positive.
Yeah.
So we will also be watching very closely there, Leanne, as to what sort of pledges, how different are they from what happened last year. So that is where you'd really be able to see if what he is saying he really intends to achieve. Of course, they want to build the new city, or the new cities. I would be very interested to see that. In fact, I personally have been feeling, where is Democracy City?
Yeah. You know, I understand that, but it was always, you know, at the end of the speech to come through and say, I dream of a city. It's not a, we are going to build a city. I dream of that city. But are we, you know, instead of maybe rallying people and saying, right, we have found the space, we know where it's going, this is where the new city is going to be, and we are going to start building it. Yeah, and I think that that's perhaps what people have now grasped at, is this dream of a new city.
I think perhaps his strategy is this. He is selling us a dream. The question is, are we taking that dream? Are we embracing that dream? If indeed we agree that what he has said is correct and we agree with it, so then we can start. I mean, he has 5 years to be able to realize many of the things that he's speaking about. And remember, Leanne, this is June, right? In the next few months, we'll be having another State of the Nation address. He should be able to account. So he has sold us a dream. In the next, is it 7 or 8 months?
Yeah, possibly, but
about
7, 8 months.
He should be able to say in June, this is what I spoke about.
Yeah.
So a few months down the line, this is what I'm going to do. So let's perhaps give him the benefit of the doubt on this one. He's selling us a dream. He just wants to see if we are embracing it.
And you see, he did talk about the fact that he is having these very serious conversations. He named 4 people: Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, Dr. Naledi Pandor, Ms. Jessie Duarte, and Prince Xi Jinping.
In fact, President Xi Jinping, in fact, when I was listening to his speech, I know this is what I normally say. I'm going to be very short.
Good.
This is what I normally say when I listen to the President of China. From the beginning to the end, his speech is laced with economic challenges and realities of his country. I think our president is going that direction. If he follows it through, will be another China.
There we go. Okay. Well, in the good
terms of development.
In the good sense.
In terms of development.
Right. Thank you very much. It's so nice working with you and chatting to you and getting your analysis. Let's quickly go for the final word to the red carpet. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. We'll wrap up over there. Bye-bye.
Well, it's been a busy day here, right here in Parliament, starting from the pomp and ceremony today, as well as the red carpet. And now later on, the President taking the national salute, of course, with that spectacular fly past by the South African Navy. And of course, for the big issue of the night, him delivering the State of the Nation address for 2019. I'm with my colleague Lulama Maja. What stood out for you today?
For me, Bulelani, it was the president talking about having violent crimes. You know, South Africa has a big problem of violent crimes. It has a big problem of high crime rate. For him to say he intends to have it, that stood out for me.
All right, Lulu, thank you so much for your time. I'm sure you probably are looking forward to going to bed to rest, because it's been a long day. My name is Bulelani Philip.
I'm Lula Mamaja.
It's a good night from us, and it's back to you guys in studio.